Good evening, brothers and sisters. This evening, I will be reflecting on today's Gospel, Matthew chapter 5, the Beatitudes. Before I begin presenting my reflection, I would like to ask these questions. Are you still asking God, what is your purpose in life? If you are still asking this question, then we must ask Him too, what do you want me to be, Lord? This is very important for all of us to keep asking God, show me my purpose, Lord. Because in knowing our purpose in this life is that we can serve you. In serving Him is that we can be happy, committed, and faithful. The joy of being happy, committed, and faithful comes from our first call to serve Jesus and others. Going back a couple of chapters in the Gospel of Matthew, we can see how Jesus in chapter 3:18 called his first disciples, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. It is this first moment that they find happiness to be leaders to build the Christian communities that embody Jesus' teachings and miracles. After being chosen to be leaders, they became the first Christian community to follow Christ. Immediately in chapter 3, verses 23, Jesus began ministering with his brothers, not alone, to the crowds of people by teaching, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and infirmity among the people. From choosing his disciple, teaching and doing mighty works of healing, Jesus wanted to sit with them and teach them about a new way of life that is presented in today's gospel. Brothers and sisters, Jesus sat down and his brothers came to him to listen to his teaching. I remember when I broke my wrist, it was really difficult for me to endure the pain and the suffering that I was going through. And even to be happy or committed to this way of life or to be faithful. For example, going to school, coming to the chapel, to come to pray with all of you. It was really difficult to remain in that state of faithfulness and commitment and joy. And thanks be to God, to all of you, I was able to move forward. But I tell you that in prayer, I was thinking about my first calling. And I just heard that in my heart saying, you're not here for yourself. You are here to serve me, to serve the church, and to serve others. And that's what I had in my mind all the time when I was crying on the bed and complaining and asking God why this is happening, what is the purpose of me going through all of this. And I think in taking that attitude of coming to Jesus and taking the time to listen to his teaching, I'm able to discover what he wants of me and what he wants me to do. And my purpose, which is just to be happy, committed, and faithful. It might be really simple, but that's what I'm getting in my heart that God is saying to me. And I believe that that's the attitude that he's calling each of you to take in your heart and to practice every day. To come to him and to listen to his teaching. Because that's the only way that we're going to be able to embody and take in these Beatitudes and follow faithfully his calling. Here we can see that Jesus is giving us a purpose, the same way that he's giving me my purpose. And I hope I can remain faithful to that calling. A purpose that is to listen to him in order to preach, to teach, and follow Jesus. Really simple. And my question for you guys, this 9, it's which of these Beatitudes in the Gospel of Matthew applies to you? Or which of them are helping you to listen and to follow Jesus? For me, I was meditating in two of the Beatitudes, which really are calling me to change my life. Blessed are the poor in the spirit, for theirs the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Jesus is calling people to be his leaders, teachers, healers, ambassadors of his kingdom now. The way that we live out to this call is by asking God, please bless me. I want to be poor in spirit, because those who are poor in spirit become beggars of God's grace. And bless me to the point that I starve and thirst for righteousness, because those who hunger and thirst for righteousness are in the right relationship with you. We all want to be happy, committed, and faithful, right? It can be very difficult, but I know it's possible if we come and said, love me, that way I can love you too. Let us decide to be beggars of God's grace and righteous children. You know, the reason why I like this beatitude, it is because each beatitude states that the possessor of this characteristic will be blessed by God. So what is this blessing? It is to be part of his divine activities. Therefore, if we really want to be happy, committed, and faithful, we need to participate in God's divine activities, as Jesus did in the Sermon on the Mountain. Jesus came not to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. Do you know what really helps us to know if we are fulfilling the law and what the prophets have said? We need to ask ourselves, what is it that I'm fulfilling in this life today? We need to know in concrete if we are fulfilling his will. Otherwise, it will be difficult to be happy and to find reasons to be committed and faithful. You know that this message is for everyone, to remind us that we are sinners and that we need God's grace to be poor in spirit and righteous in order to be in the right relationship with God. It is in being a beggar of God's grace and righteous that we find meaning and purpose in life. I will leave you with two questions this night. Are the things that we do as Christians, religious, and sons and daughters of God, drawing people to listen to the gospel as Christ drew his disciples and others to listen to him? Are we being truly challenged by the teachings of Christ today in order to act upon them as agents of change? We all need God's help. So let us be beggars of God's grace and pray with me. God is our promise and trophy. Mary, you gave birth to our promise and trophy. Through your humility, help us to know our place in relationship to God. Help us to say yes to God's plan in order for us to embrace his call to be poor in spirit and righteous children of God. Help us to be happy, committed, and faithful.